guys, this is Red and Blue again. Second video today. This time to talk about the game we had last night against Lille and PSG's win 3-0 at home in Ligue 1. A return to winning ways and a game which apparently is leaving a lot of people conflicted because I hear on one side people who talk about the win and the scoreline and 3-0 and PSG's back and Dembélé. And on the other side, you've got people who are pointing out the limitations of how we played in the first half. Doué and Kvaratskhelia, who didn't turn in super great performances. Luis Enrique, who seemed to be complaining and criticizing the output of his players. So let's go back to it, try to circle the wagon on this one, and I can share with you like how I think about it and where we can land on this. So, PSG Lille, like I said, 3-0, a win. We took the top of the table spot in Ligue 1, at least for a few hours, because Lens is playing later against Auxerre, a game that they should be winning, honestly. So they might get back the top spot. But yeah, for now, at least, like we did our job. We're on top of Ligue 1, and so that's great. After the defeat against Paris FC in the Cup as well, we get back to winning ways. We not only get the win, we get a clean sheet. We score 3 goals from our attackers. And so I think just in that, there's already a lot of positive. And, I'm not going to like mess about any longer. I think like for me, the big positive, it's very simple. It's Ousmane Dembélé. Dembélé is just stamped this game with the seal of the Ballon d'Or. He scores 2 goals, including a second one, which is might end up being a contender for the Puskas prize of the best goal of the year. A super nice, like kind of little dink over the keeper from within the area with 3 defenders in front of him who like have no clue how to stop him. If you haven't seen it on social media, honestly, go see it. It's funny because I've heard a lot of people say, and I definitely completely agree, but if Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo like score a goal like this, you see it everywhere in the world within like seconds. And so it's definitely this kind of goal. It's a special one. It's a great reminder of the kind of talent that we have in Ousmane Dembélé and the kind of player he is. And honestly, like after seeing the game, I've got a little bit of. I'm thinking of all the people out there, all of the people who said all over social media, all over football conversation, that the second half of last season for Dembélé was just a fluke. That he wasn't that good. They was never going to get back to winning ways. That he was a Ballon d'Or by default, and just because the team of PSG was so strong, and that he wasn't at the level of a Ballon d'Or. Yeah, go see that game yesterday. Go see the goal. The goal is fantastic, but go see the game because I think the game in its entirety is fantastic as well. He scores the first goal, and I think like. That first goal is actually even more of an indictment of people who say he's never going to go back to scoring as much as he scored last season because it's a shot from the left foot from outside of the area that goes like in basically like a rabbit hole on the side of the goal, hits the post before coming in. So it's like literally like exactly placed out of reach of the keeper, but in a space that is so tight, so precise. It's just amazing that he manages to make it go in. And I think it's a shot of like, a top striker. Let's be honest. The second one is obviously wonderful, and he said that. And I think beyond that, like what really struck me is that we're seeing the return of a Dembélé who radiates on the rest of the team, who has like an influence on the rest of the team that cannot be understated. Dembélé who moves and goes everywhere on the pitch, who drops back into midfield to organize the game, who goes into the wings to create overlaps, who moves around, who goes in a number 9 position but then moves away, creates spaces, and like honestly, like it's just wonderful to see. I don't think yesterday, like, the team took full advantage of it, because I think they haven't seen that version of Dembélé for basically 6 months. And so it's taking all of the other players a little bit of time to get used to it again. But straight away, you can see, how Fabian Ruiz, for example, it impacts him. How, like, Nuno Mendes in the second half, it impacts him. And so yeah, like, I think it's fantastic to see him come back to this top level. He says in an interview at the end of the game that he's going to be at 100% for the second half of the season. Honestly, if we go back to a top level Dembélé, everything is possible this season. I'm a big believer. I love the player in general, but I think, like, I love the version of the players that we've been having in PSG for the past year and a half. I do think it's something special that Luis Enrique has managed to unlock, and that Dembélé himself has managed to unlock, because a lot of work is a player's work. And so, yeah, so, a little thought for the doubters out there, the Barca fans who thought, like, the injury Barcelona Dembélé was really the right version of Dembélé. Just go look at the game yesterday, man. Go look at the game. And this one is, like, right on time. We're going to be going back into Champions League game on Tuesday. Yeah, it's really, like, it's that time. And, it follows as well a crescendo of performances from Dembélé throughout January. Obviously, he scored against Marseille. He scored in the first game against PFC. He scores 2 yesterday. So it's, yeah. Enough said, like, very, very, very satisfied to see this. And even in the attitude, it's so great to see him. Because it's also, like, I'm sorry, I'm going deep into this, but, like, it's also another thing that I think people underestimate a lot, is the importance of Dembélé as a leader for the team and for the attack. I think in terms of the attitude, in terms of, like, trying to push people to press, the counter pressing, the gegen pressing, and like all of those attitudes, he's a leader, and you can see other players take notice and go like, okay, the boss is back, like, it's time to roll up our sleeves and actually, like, get to work. The memo didn't get to everyone last night, and I think that's one of the negatives. Just, like, to move into that and balance it out, which is that in the first half in particular, and looking at Doué and Kvara's performances in particular, really very much less than ideal in terms of intensity and in terms of aggressivity of pressing. And I think, like, that's the frustration that Luis Enrique was showing. It's why on his sideline he was looking raving mad at some point in the first half, because, yeah, Kvara and Doué, we expect a lot more from them. They really didn't deliver good performances yesterday, and Mayulu in midfield was the same as well. And, like, those 3 players, on their own, almost managed to balance out a really good performance from the rest of the team. And so I think that's where, like, a lot of conflict is happening in terms of how people look at this game and analyze this game, because, yes, 8 players out of 11 had a good performance or an excellent performance in the case of Dembélé, and 3 players did not. And the reality is that, yeah, like, Mayulu, you can make excuse. He's young, he's learning, he's played in lots of different positions, he's played a lot. Okay, like, fine. And, like, I hear that, and I think it's completely fair to say, and I believe in Mayulu. He can go through his phases of learnings, and he'll be back. I have no doubts about this, because the kid is talented. Players like Vara and, like, Doué, it's not enough. And the problem is that, to talk about Kvara first, it's been a while since it's been enough. We haven't seen a good version of Kvara, like, basically all of this season so far. And, if I'm looking at Barcola yesterday, and for all of the criticism, like, Barcola, when he comes on the pitch, straight away goes into the spaces, straight away try to create, straight away. He moves from left to right. He's all over the pitch. He's pushing. He's trying. And it's just like, if I'm Kvara, I'm nervous when I see that, because Kvara just didn't play at the same level. And sure, like, he might maybe like succeed more in terms of when he gets things going. But if he doesn't try in the first place, it's all for nothing. And yesterday, Kvara, when he gets off the pitch, one is the first to get substituted in terms of the line of attack, and he looks unhappy. And, he looks unhappy that he's not getting enough of the ball. He looks unhappy that he's not like, things aren't clicking for him. At some point, a player of his caliber, you go back to basics, you go back to fundamental, you move more, you try more. God bless, actually, like, one of the few positives is that, like, I think defensively he had a couple of really good track backs to help his defense, and that's basically what I would fit under, like, going back to basics. So at least that he does very well, and I think that really helps the team. But yeah, like, he just needs to simplify. You don't need to dribble past 4 players to score on yourself. You can pass the ball, dribble one and pass it, dribble one and pass it, move around to open up spaces, pass the ball around, take a shot if you're open. Don't try to dribble past players first. I think right now, like, maybe he's trying too much, and like, that's exactly the same thing that's happening with Doué as well. More in the first half than on the second half for Doué. I think it gets a little bit better in the second half. But the first half, it's really like vintage Doué that I know a lot of us are finding annoying, myself included, which is when he tries to do too much, when he tries to like dribble everything, he's not in the right rhythm, he's not making the right decisions. And yeah, it doesn't work for the team, it doesn't work for him. And ultimately, like, I find it very frustrating. I find it very frustrating, like everyone, I think. At the same time, I make slight allowances for it because I know that's his game. And ultimately, if you want the Doué who's doing like the heel flick, rotating on himself, pass in the final of the Champions League, you need to suffer through the Doué who sometimes makes the wrong decision, tries to do too much, and isn't in the right pace. So that's a price we have to pay sometimes. I think right now it's a bit steep and it's a bit too much. And yes, that's where I hope the influence of Dembélé coming back and showing him that, let's get real. You counter press, you do your work, you don't try to do it all on your own, you try to pass the ball around. We're trying to create opportunities for the team, not for individuals. It's really, what context he needs to have right now. So that was like for like the 3 individual players that really disappointed. I think like tactically on this game, I think that's the next point I wanted to reach. It's actually like a more interesting game than I think we realize, because Lille comes at us with a very defensive organization and a very defensive starting 11. Yet in the first half, they managed to create chances for themselves. We trap them in a sort of like false rhythm. In the second half, as soon as we're 1-0 up, basically from the 20th to the 40th, when not a lot of things are happening, we don't really manage to create much on our end, but at the same time, neither do they. And so it's a very pedestrian game, kind of a bit boring. And also why, at halftime, like, people aren't satisfied with our performance. And then I think at halftime, like, Luis Enrique adjusts the squad, takes out Mayulu and bring in Zabarni instead, pushes Zaire Emery into midfield, pushes Nuno Mendes, or at least gives him a lot more freedom to move forward. And all of a sudden, it's funny because like Dembélé is fantastic throughout the game, but all of a sudden, the 2 players apart from Dembélé who are the strongest on the pitch and who have been doing the best on the pitch for the past few games, all of a sudden have a lot more freedom to move forward and impact the game a lot more. And I think all of a sudden you see the amount of dominance that we manage to push on this Lille team, the amount of control that we get of the game, and all of a sudden you get a chance at the 46, at the 50th, at the 52, you score at the 60th, you keep going, there's 2-3 more chances, and you score the third one at the end of the game. And I think, like, honestly, Lille doesn't really see the second half. They don't produce much of anything. They're just completely trapped in our system. And all of a sudden, they just get dominated because that power descending on them is just too much for them to manage. And all of a sudden, yeah, like, Barcola comes on the pitch, has a really good substitution, a really good 30 minutes on the pitch. And yeah, things turn our way. And I think ultimately, like, the win is very well deserved. It's no drama. Yes, not everything was perfect in this game. Yes, like, there's stuff to fine-tune, both like individually and in terms of, collective performance. But I think it's tracking with what we've seen so far in January, which is a progressive increase in performance. And if I'm honest, it starts with the Ligue game against Paris FC, where really, like, we get the win, but we don't create much of anything. The win in Kuwait against Marseille, which is really by the skin of our teeth, and it's a hard-fought game where it could very easily have gone the other way. We lose in the cup, a game where, like, honestly, we do create a lot more, and we kind of dominate this game. And all of a sudden, in this Lille game, yes, we don't dominate every possible second. I think they start the game stronger than us. The first 10 minutes, they've got a couple of chances, but at the same time, like, you look back at the end of the game. Yes, PSG deserves to win that game because we've got better individualities because we've got a better coach who's been able to adapt better to the circumstances of the game, and because we were, like, just more clinical in both areas. And I think that's the last point as well, just before I close. I think Chevalier has another good game. He's very borderline at the very beginning on the lob from Giroud. But it's not entirely his fault, if I'm honest, because Pacho kind of put the ball back onto the feet of Giroud. And Chevalier ultimately, like, he's been criticized because he's not coming off of his line cleanly and quickly enough. In this case, he really goes off his line, maybe a little bit too fast, but it's hard to criticize him for doing the things that we were criticizing him for not doing. So I think he would have been a bit unlucky if Giroud scores that opportunity that he has at the first minute. Then after that, he has two good saves against Mbappé in the first 10-15 minutes of the game. And then at the very end of the game, he also has a good save on a shot from the right. So yeah, it's a good game for him, decisive. Our line of defense, Pacho took a bit of time to get into the game, but ultimately, like, really put a lead on the Lille attackers. Ethan Mbappé, actually, I thought had a very good game on the Lille side. It pains me to say it a little bit, but yeah, a lot of movement, a lot of availability, creating a lot, not always as decisive as you would want him to be in terms of finding that last pass or that last shot, but good overall. So anyway, 3-0, we get the win. Who's back? Guess who's back? 3-0, we get the win. We're back on top of Ligue 1. We'll see what Lens does. And we're going to be moving into the Champions League, which is great, like Sporting Portugal in Lisbon on Tuesday night. So we're going to be talking about this very soon. It's exciting. I think the team is progressing. Not everything is perfect, but we're getting there. We're going to have a month of February that's hopefully, pending Champions League results, is going to be a little bit more quiet and where we can actually do some work with the full squad. We're going to have a recruit apparently in Joe Fernandez come join and bring a bit of depth to our midfield. Yeah, things are like looking relatively good. Let's be optimistic. Let's look at the glass half full. And so, as always, Let me know in the comments what you think of this game. Are you team glass half full or team glass half empty? Hard to I don't know. I find it hard to criticize after a 3-0 win, honestly. It's ultimately job done. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and don't forget, as always, ici c'est Bye!